Another new shape's the 1600cc Citroen Saxo of Ulsterman Neil McShay. Despite suffering misfires on the opening stages, he was in the lead of the FERODO Super 1600s, pursued by the Proton of Mats Andersson. A truly international team, a Malaysian car prepared in Wales, driven by a Swede and co-driven by Berwickshire's Claire Mole.
Keep right on a crest, 60, right 5 of a small crest, to right 3 plus, to left 5 short, 80k, left 2 plus, to right 2 minus, don't cut.
Just 5 seconds separated the Proton from the Citroen after the first 5 stages, in contrast to Mark Higgins' domineering. As Anderson headed on to 10th place in a class win, disappointment though for local driver Richard Davies from Wrexham. That puncture would drop his Mitsubishi off the leaderboard from 8th to 11th, but it's better luck at least than last year when his gearbox broke as he drove off the start ramp. Anderson though was flying high in the new Proton Satria, the Malaysian word for warrior, and he'll have a season-long battle in the FERODO Super 1600s. And the lightweight Proton obviously doesn't have any trouble with the tight downhill hairpins. Unlike the heavier production class Mitsubishis, which rely on road car-sized brakes. Great start to the championship for the Vauxhall drivers. Higgins on 12 points, Neil Weirden on 10, with Marco Ipati, the Mitsubishi driver, scoring 8 ahead of Mats Andersson. 3-point scorers in the manufacturers, Vauxhall on 12, Proton on 10, Hyundai with 8. Mats Andersson claimed success in the FERODO Super 1600 class, but a double would be tough.
It's just not for Peugeot. It's a very tight class, so everyone can win it. So it will be very hard work for these 2 days. You just have to watch out for punctures.
Even despite the Peugeot's problems that have been hard pushed to match the pace of the dust-storming Swede, Mats Andersson.
60, right 5 to crest, 150. Tail left 3 slipping, 60. Tail left 3 slipping, 60.
Leading the class by 20 seconds, the Proton was now up to an amazing 4th overall. Sweden's Mats Andersson, Berwick's Claire Mole, and the Malaysian Proton prepared in Wales.
40 left 5 minus of a crest, to tail left 4 of a crest, to right 2 at junction, to left 5, 130.
Andersson's pace meant that in the Super 1600 class, he held a minute's advantage over the pursuing Peugeot of Justin Dale. And in the 1600 Proton, Mats Andersson was a happy man.
No, I'm not used to people are trying to catch us. It's normally the other way around, so it's quite good.
It had been a true giant-killing performance. The electronics engineer from Eslöv in the south of Sweden was heading back to Carlisle in a fine 5th place.
Sideways control. That's what it's all about.
55 seconds ahead of the nearest man in his class, the 1600cc Proton was just 1 second adrift from the turbocharged 4-wheel drive Mitsubishi Lancer of Nick Elsmore. The victory gives Ipati the championship lead after 2 rounds, ahead of Mats Andersson and Mark Higgins, with a philosophical Cutaleto equal 4th. And in the Manufacturers' Championship, Hyundai and Proton head the field with established frontrunners Vauxhall and Peugeot 3rd and 4th, and Volkswagen still to score. 1600 class winner in the past 2 rounds, Mats Andersson in the Proton, is now 2nd outright in the championship.
All the team is very happy, but it's still a very long way to go. It's very important to do a good timing, and we're going to try and stay off the Peugeots, of course.
Defending his 2 victories in the FERODO Super 1600 class, Mats Andersson was another planning to pace himself on the opening stages. At least that's what he said before the event.
Left 2 plus, don't cut. 100 through trees. Well held.
The Swede almost taking the 100 through trees instruction a little too literally. But the pressure was on the Proton from the flying pair of Peugeots. Mats Andersson and Claire Mole were still 2nd in the 1600 class, but they too were heading for a fright.
Right 3 plus up, 100. Small crest, 60 left 2 plus, 50.
Mats Andersson was now 4th in the Super 1600 class behind the 2 Peugeots and Marco Raumanen's Honda. But the Proton driver wouldn't be helped by a bizarre loss. Listen for the extra crashing and banging as a rear wheel parts company.
crest to right 3 minus. To left 5 up.
Rear wheel went off.
60 right 3 tight.
This isn't very easy, man.
What's the matter with you, like? How many wheels do you want?
Few more with it.
You're doing fine.
Now the brake seems to go as well.
Oh, great.
Oh, yes.
Driving the yellow three-wheeler, Mats, now renamed Del Boy, did make it into the service area and was still in the rally.
It just on a very fast downhill bit on the stage, just went off, the stub axle's gone, so it's just worn out, I think.
Thanks to the quick work by the Proton mechanics changing the rear suspension in brakes in just 8 minutes, Andersson would still be heading for vitally needed points in the FERODO Super 1600 Championship. Meanwhile, class leader Jarmo Kuutelaito's performance keeps Hyundai at the head of the Constructors' Championship, 2 points ahead of Proton, with Vauxhall third from Peugeot and Volkswagen. Marco Epati enjoys a 10-point advantage over Mark Higgins at half distance in the Drivers' Championship. Mats Andersson and Claire Mole in the Proton were determined to keep their 10-point class lead as they headed to Langton Mill. As always, a hit with the media and over 4,000 spectators.
Continues hairpin right to left 1 at junction. Slippy. 50 crest to left 5, 120.
This, though, would be the last we'd see of Mats Andersson and Claire Mole in the Proton.
Okay, left 3 plus of a bump, Slippy. To right 1 up, don't cut. What's happened?
And while New Boys Hyundai still held their lead in the Manufacturers' Championship, there are just 2 points in it between themselves and Vauxhall, with 2 championship rounds left. Despite lying third in the Manufacturers' Championship, it was proving a disappointing rally for Proton. Both the 1600 car and Swedish driver Mats Andersson feel more at home on longer, faster, more flowing stages, and they were struggling, 16th overall.
Left 2 plus continues, 60. Left 2 minus Slippy to keep right through Bales.
And already, even the most innocuous shortcuts were being
Right
punished by hidden obstacles.
250.
On through Stoke Park, Morkery, Exton and Beaver would make up the final group of stages before the finish. 5th in the Super 1600s, Mats Andersson and Claire Mole have been forced to give best, not just to the Peugeots and the Citroen, but also to a similar Proton.
Okay, right 3 plus of a crest, bumps, very slippy.
Welshman are now 3 points ahead of Hyundai, with Volkswagen and Proton equal third, heading into the final round. It's all to play for. But the man who was poised to poop the Peugeot party was Proton's flying Swede, Mats Andersson.
At the moment, I'm leading over Justin, but so the tarmac is from the Peugeot, so we'll just try and keep up with him. We'll see, it's a long rally, so a lot of things can happen.
Mats Andersson's defence of the FERODO Super 1600 Championship lead had started well. 12th fastest on the opening stage, 4th in class. The Swede's smooth style was suiting the Proton Satria, and he was happy to set his own pace while Justin Dale went on the attack in the Peugeot 106. Mats Andersson and Claire Mole had finished the first leg 9th overall and 2nd in the FERODO Super 1600s. Sufficient to claim the title, but they still had to finish.
Slippy continues. Okay, left 4 times to 2 minus, very slippy. To right 260.
On stage 8, they came perilously close to throwing it all away.
Right 260. Right 2 short. To left 2. To small crest. To right 3 plus.
The brakes locked up, that's it. I don't think we're trying to now, we just had the brakes keeps locking up all the time and they locked up a bit too much at one place, so unfortunately we were stuck on a post, so that took us about 10 minutes, so a bit of a struggle.
Mats Andersson and Claire Mole, 13th in the Proton Satria after that incident with a gate post, were still the second point scoring crew in the FERODO Super 1600s. And they were on the way to the champion's title. Precision's been the key to Matt's success, so much so that even one of her onboard cameras can make the Proton an inch too wide.
It looked very bad on Friday morning, so but it's all come together and we're here now, so we're very happy.
Just shows you it doesn't matter what happens, you've still got to get to the finish.
Yes, you never can give up.
Now Claire, you had a lot to do on this event as well, pushing, shoving and reading the notes.
Yeah, it's stuck on the double gate post. That didn't help to start with, so it was a case of bringing it home, which has been harder, I think. It's easier when you can just let them go instead of reeling them in all the time. It's been a struggle, but it's been worth the fight, and especially for the team.
Weirden's contribution, though, with Higgins has brought Vauxhall the manufacturer's title by a 17-point margin from the close-fought battle between Proton and Peugeot.